Thank you. Please welcome the producer Marcos Kantis, and please welcome the cinematographer Benedict Neuenfels. We're waiting for the producer.
Marcos.
Thank you for making this film.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the history behind it. I know we just talked about it that production of this film is not 2 years ago, but a couple of years ago, and you've been working on this project for a long time. And maybe you and also Marcos can take us there, like to say how this all started and how difficult it was to make Styx.
So we started with the script, writing the script 7 years ago, and it's a little shocking nowadays. In these 7 years today, the situation is still the same, and it's crazy that it still has this approach what's going on right now today all around in Europe, and that's was quite challenging, and also to create a story. I mean, the main idea was to show a solo sailor woman in an archaic world, and what kind of world we are living in, and then the second adventure starts, which she is not fond of, and then the big dilemma started, and that was quite intense because we did a lot of research. We met many NGOs, also Malta, because we went out and we were shooting in Malta the movie, and on the other side all these NGOs went out in order to rescue the human beings out there. This was a little bit weird. And the next question was?
No, just okay. Maybe what year are we talking about now? Because I mean, this film about refugees, of course, resonates differently, as you just said, with us. But like, when did, like, what time was it? What sort of, like, political situation are we in that you started to think about this? Can you get us back? Like, was it like the first sub-Saharan African refugees and like the Italy crisis, or where are we now?
I mean, it's migration will be the topic for the next decades. And as a filmmaker, it was such a strong issue to deal with this topic for me, because it's a crazy situation and there is no solution also right now. I mean, there are these tendencies to shut down the water roads, and then you push back the people to places where the cameras won't see them anymore. So that's the way how we deal with this problem, and that's bizarre, and that's also the dilemma our main actress is in. And it's also raising the question, what would we do in this kind of situation? How would we decide? And it's kind of real everyday life situation. If we go with the underground and somebody is getting beaten up next to us, are we going to involve ourselves, or are we going to hide away and look away?
And if you pitch it like this, it sounds sort of like unambiguous. It sounds very, I don't know, drastic, but like you chose a very specific style, and Benedict Neuenfels, you're also very much part of this style of telling a film basically without giving this main character, who is a woman, which I think is quite important, a backstory, without having her say much, and like just letting the images speak, which I think is quite an extreme and daring and beautiful solution. And yeah, maybe you can say something about the idea of like...
I start.
Yeah, exactly. Tell us a little bit about the importance of the images and the non-importance of dialogue and conventional storytelling in a way.
Well, actually, it's we've been since the time we were researching and preparing this movie. Of course, as you can see, technically, it's nothing you can just buy at the store. So it needs a lot of preparation, technically. But we've been overwhelmed and overtaken by the crisis which occurred in the last 2-3 years. So there were a lot of journalists, a lot of images, shocking images, how to cope with these images and how to find another, let's say, dramatization or another feeling to it. First of all, there is always this, in this movie especially, you have to find a way how to tell the sea, the physics of the ocean. which is, if you not doing a three-dimensional movie, maybe a challenge. So this needs another kind of approach, form, long takes, you know, to get to see what she's doing, not to fake through a cut, which always means that you cut time and space. So this was one challenge, and then the other challenge was to, let's say, to find a tenderness and also a clearness in the images, starting with, let's say, if you see the car accident, there are a lot of perceptions in that image. It's like, I don't know, hundreds of perceptions. And then when we come to the sea, slowly, we dismantle all these things. So it becomes very archaic. So this was our, let's say, main goal, aesthetic-wise, to cope with the situation, to find images which run through rhythm. And it's not a question in general if you talk or not. I mean, this is not the big issue, and it was not even for us a big issue. Why to tell something what you can see if you dismantle it?
It's quite beautiful how the film starts first with a prologue with the monkeys, and then with like a sort of like masterpiece of a short film in itself, which is the car accident. Maybe you can tell a little bit about what Wolfgang can actually say it yourself, but like what the concepts were visually about, first of all, this double prologue of like still being on the mainland and being in Germany actually, and then like sort of like letting loose and giving the narrative to the sea and to Susanne Wolf, who I think is quite amazing in this film.
In the main part, in the first part, you see the apes of Gibraltar, and which is a weird location, because it's also the myth. As long as the apes are in Gibraltar, it stays British. If the apes are disappearing, Gibraltar goes back to Spain. And what was for me interesting in this image, that you see apes not in their natural surrounding, so they are in the civilization, and you don't see human beings, so it's a little bit, the world is a little bit out of balance, and that was a nice way for me to start the movie. And then we go to the car accident, and that was for me important to show that our main character is a professional helper. So she knows how to help. She's a little bit in advance as our normal human beings, our normal life, and then to throw her in this journey, and then put her alone on the ocean, and no dialogues, just her physical approach, how to deal with being on a yacht, and how are the movements, and that was crazy to shoot. And then something else comes in the story, and then it comes to crazy decisions and crazy, it's a crazy dilemma then. Because all what she's doing, there's nothing right and wrong. And also you mentioned the crisis. The crisis in the medical term is the chance. So if that's the reason why also she's an emergency doctor, it's a chance if the patient is alive or dead. And it would be a nice idea also to use also in terms the crisis of the refugees. Maybe we can also think about what's the chance, what can we do, what can we change.
But thankfully enough, your film doesn't give any answers. Yeah. That's what I liked so much, to just, it's so easy to fall into a moralistic trap. Yeah. But I mean, like I told you before, it's sort of like an allegory. Like everything is so unspoken that the ways of approaching it as a viewer doesn't, for me personally, I don't know about you guys, you can also say something and comment and ask questions. We have 2 microphones. Well, I can use that right now. And there's one colleague here waving with a white flag, and then there's one here, so you can just integrate yourself into the conversation. But there are no clear answers, I think, and that, I was personally asking myself, I think, the questions of your main protagonists, because like you didn't lead us anywhere, not with music and not with words and not with, so it's putting it personally for me on a very blank space. I want to get Marcos involved, the producer. I would like to know how, as a producer in a film that is so free stylistically and that, written down, I would really like to know sort of like the script look like, you know, with like more or less just a couple of, well, basically descriptions and a very loose sort of like narrative, how you reacted to that, how you can produce something like this and finance it also?
Well, it has been a long way. As Wolfgang said, I stepped into the project, I think, in 2013. And remember this time, at least in Germany, the big political issues was at the Brexit. You remember that it was about European community and that Greece will be out. And so people first told me it's a very, very dramatic script, which it was always. Like from the first version I read, it really took you and you could follow the leading person, but we had some problems. And right after we start financing, the Lampedusa disaster happened. I think it was in 2014. And then people react, and now they understand, you see, it's not only happening there in Africa and people are suffering, now it comes really into Europe. So, and then it still needed a little bit time to finance the film. We was trying to set up a bigger co-production with France, Belgium, Austria and Germany. In the end, we had to do it with Austria, Germany. And then we needed all, like a really crew to find the system, how we can work with the money we had to create these images, also to go to Malta for 8 weeks, to shoot everything that we had, to go to Gibraltar, to shoot in Cologne. It was quite a adventure to do the film, but in the end I'm really, really proud that we finally did it. And I think it's still, beside the political issue, and that makes me so proud, is that it works on the dramatic side. It catches you and it don't let you go.
Thanks to great cinematography and also great sound design. Maybe we can ask, well, first of all, other questions? Does it mean there is a question? Okay. Let me finish mine and then it's your turn, if that's okay. No, you can give her the mic. But I was just like, ich hatte was auf der Zunge. And I was just working with Susanne Wolf and like working on the sea. I mean, it's a very obvious question, but like, you know, how do you direct a film like cinematographically on the sea, and how do you work with an actress that you don't give any lines until the first hour and that physically has so much to perform?
That was really, that was the biggest challenge, how to shoot on an 11 meters yacht. So we did everything in real, there was no CGI, nothing. And I mean, we were not experienced skipper. We started to make a sailing course on the Wannsee out of Berlin. We had no idea how does this function. It's not possible. I mean, and then we end up with wind force 8, 9 on Malta, and we were directing the storm. And that was also for the whole team a big challenge. I mean, because half of the team became seasick, and then you have to hide, you have to hang out the railing, okay, let's shoot, okay, and it was movements like this, and this was insane. I mean, this was really crazy, and you can't hide, and there is no intimacy also for the actress. I mean, she can't go somewhere, okay, I go to my trailer, then figure out how you shoot this, I come back in 1 hour, and that was crazy. And also the shooting time, I mean, we started at 5 o'clock in the morning when we do daytime, and the first shot was at 10, and then maybe you've got 3-4 hours, and then you have to go back again. So it's like a soap niveau to shoot this kind of movie. You have got maybe 2 hours to direct, or okay, let's do something, try something out. It's impossible. And then you always have to react on the ocean, so you can't dictate the ocean what to do. I mean, I think the director assistant, he had to write 40 shooting plans. I mean, that was also, because you always, every day you have to adjust, react on the ocean, and that was weird.
Sorry for cutting you short, yeah.
Hello.
Could you do us a favor and stand up? It's impossible to see anything. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Daria. Thank you very much for the film. It really touched me. I think it's a great motion picture. And the story and the images, I think I'm still under the impression of the film. Congratulations to the whole crew. So my question is about the casting. I think the actress is just amazing, as well as the boy. So was it easy to find an actress? Was it a long casting?
Yeah, we did the casting all over Europe, and it was a long process. And then we came back to Susanne Wolf because she's an experienced sailor. She knows how to steer a boat. She also has to train weeks, months, because she also was just sailing on lakes and not in the ocean, and it's quite different. And that was for her very, very hard also to be really behind the steering wheel, and you have to face the elements. And the boy, we had a cooperation with One Fine Day in Nairobi with Tom Tikwe and Marie Steinmann. They have schools in the slums from Nairobi and Kibera. And the boy is from the school, so we casted 60 boys, and then there was Gideon, and then we choose Gideon, and that was also very complex because in my point of view I couldn't just go somewhere in a town in Europe and take a boy from here. It has to be this certain boy also, this certain feeling, the movements, the body language is different. And with him it was also very complicated because he has never seen the ocean and he couldn't swim at all. And he had to learn to swim, and he was not in the center of Nairobi. He was the first time in a plane, and this was a very sensitive situation. And the school in Nairobi, in the Bonfire School, they do a great job because in these schools, the slum kids, they can go there and explore their creativity. And now we have a kind of sign that you can do something with your creativity, you can reach something, and that's also for the school a very big issue.
Are there more questions? There's another one there. Is there one there? No. If you hold it, also wenn ihr hochhaltet, ihr habt eine Frage. Ne, genau, okay, jetzt habe ich es auch verstanden. Super, die nächste da drüben. Next question over there.
I'm sorry I can't stand up because I have high illness in this room.
Understand it.
I have no question. I only want to say I'm very happy to see the film because you choose a woman for the role. And normally when it would be a man, I think the man would be crying more often at the boat because the woman don't say anything because in every situation, and that was very impression. And yes, thank you for the film.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any more comments or questions?
The last screening in Berlin, so take your chance.
Not forever. It's already been distributed for Soho Films. So.
Program. It's for the Berlin people. Yes. No?
Something's wrong with the mic, maybe?
I just wanted to know, did I get it right? So there were no studio filming at all, like The Storm? Or did you say everything was on open water?
No. There were actually 3 setups we shot on solid ground. The shot when she is in her closet was a fake. And because it's just impossible to shoot in a real location in a yacht. In a closet, it's just, you can't put the camera anywhere. So we built this, and there is the shot when she is picking up putting down the sails or deranging the sails in the storm, which is also shot in a tank, so to say, in a controlled area, where we can fulfill the insurance guidelines as well. This is very important on such a movie, and there is another shot at night when in the storm, which we also shot in this tank, so to say, a water studio, I can say.
But I mean, if that's all Benedict, that's like nothing. I mean, right? I mean, okay, you can't wait for a storm to put Susanne Wolf in. Like,
no, actually, we did. I mean, there are storms.
Everything else was shot.
You can. No, you can. We did that twice in the storm, but that's delicate, as Wolfgang said. Again, insurance-like, but also your own anxiety. But we did it. We didn't bring the crew with us, only the skipper, me and Wolfgang did that. So not to press my team into hazardous situations.
I didn't know if it came across right, but it was a compliment that everything else was actually shot on location. I'm actually surprised that it was, but because and also the scene where she's saving him, and this physical struggle is also shot in open water.
Yes, these 3 shots, as I said.
I think you didn't answer. Actually, I had this two-part question where I said what it was like to shoot on water, and it was also directed to you. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about this. I think it's your first film, right? On the water.
Yes, I mean, of course, first of all, let's say the most interesting thing which is stunning for us from the visual side is that you film on something which is not solid. That means it moves all the time. You can do whatever you want, and it moves. So now, first decision is how to synchronize with which move, the waves, the actor, the sailing boat, etc., etc. So this was an interesting test phase up front, and then of course all the technical stuff to find. I mean, we are not Hollywood, so we can't just. I can't spend 2 million for technical gear to do that movie. So we, for 2 or 2.5, 3 years, we tested. I mean, not all the time. Of course, we have some other jobs in between, but mainly tested and found stabilization systems, how to save the camera, etc. pp. And then we, both of us, when we in our research phase, it was clear to us that we can't shoot the same way we shoot on land. That means, you come to the berth where the boat is hooked, and then you rig for 2 hours something, then you step on the boat, then you go out, and you have to find the right place. So to say, I mean, it takes some time, and often in the movie, as you have seen, it's not only it's not general about sailing. The most complicating stuff is how to line up a boat which is 350 meters away, and maybe even a life jacket in between, and how to keep that stable. That's a big issue, and thanks to we had really cracks in these departments who did everything to, let's say, to fulfill our needs to compose such an. It looks like a documentary image, but it's entirely composed, so to say. And this took a lot of time. So, and what Wolfgang already mentioned, it was quite hard after a couple of days that we had 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. And then all of a sudden we said, listen, we have to liberate ourselves. We are now sailing to Sicily and back, and fuck all the insurance stuff and whatever. We just go like it is. And this liberated us, and also the team, and also for the actors. I mean, it's the hell when you feel seasick to play. I mean, you're not all the time playing seasickness. So this was a big thing to, let's say, to orchestrate this and to have this, let's say, balance, so everybody of this crew feels comfortable and not anxious.
Kind of sounds like a nightmare to me, but I don't know. There's a question over there. Where was it? Sorry. I have to wait someone.
Actually, I do not really have a question. As a woman sailor who sails on the ocean herself, I would like to congratulate you on your film, because I really didn't detect any unrealistic situations, in contrast to the film Lost with Robert Redford, where we all, as sailors, said, impossible. How could he do this? And how could he get back on the boat with a suit and no life jacket? I would really like to congratulate you on your realistic filming. Also, from personal experience, having been there, but from listening in on the radio, we know that help is very slow to come when an emergency situation like this is occurring.
This was a question? No. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, can you wait for the mic?
Good evening.
Oh.
Just two small questions. There were some static panorama shoots, amazing shoots. Was that CG or how did you realize it? And second, bigger question, how was the editing process? Did you rearrange a lot or is everything as planned?
The editing process, I mean, I was really lucky because I could edit the movie with Monika Willi in Vienna, who does all the Haneke movies, and she is really brilliant because her feelings were written, and also she's editing against convention, but the emotional track is every time there, and that was enormous to work with her. And the second question, the total shot?
This total shot there's no CGI in it. This is a set-up shot from a very high point on a rock. And but everything, what you see is set up physically. So it probably took, I don't remember, but almost a day to shoot it.
I have a question again. So why is it Styx?
Can you stand up again?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I maybe missed it. Why is it called Styx?
Styx comes from the Greek mythology. It's the river of death. It's the border from the region of the living and the dead. And there is also this Chiron, the ferryman, and you have to give him a coin in order that he brings you to the region of death. And if you don't pay him, you have to stay there. And it was an image I liked very much because it's a kind of border of the living and the dead. And that's the reason why we were thinking, my co-author and mine, to call it Styx.
Thank you.
Is there maybe one or two last questions here? If not, we still have a couple of days of Berlinale ahead of us. Not with Styx.
How many people were you on the boat?
Okay, how many people were you on the boat?
8, 9 maximum. Because she's sailing alone. We had to hide. We had to disappear. I don't know how, but...
Any last Zwischenruf? No? Yeah, no, they all come out of there.
There was no extra boat for the crew?
I mean, there was a kind of pilot boat, and there were safety divers, and also in the storm, the safety diver was also seasick, so I don't know if they could help us, and it was, I don't know, there was a safety boat, but I didn't feel safe with the safety boat.
Yes.
What kind of stabilization system did you use? Steadicam or gimbal or?
What kind of stabilization system have you
A
used?
gimbal system. A gimbal system.
What is that?
It's the question. No, it's the question concerning if you stabilize the image on the horizon, on the boat, on the character, or whatever, and therefore we nowadays use different systems, and this is the answer. It's the gimbal system, one of our gimbal systems. Yeah, it was all manufactured by us because this doesn't exist, of course, to use a gimbal system in the wet conditions and so on and so on. But we built that in 2 years.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask again? Like, okay, I get this is a very technical camera question, but I'm really interested. But you stabilize your image, okay, I get that. But like, what do you have to produce to stabilize your image on a certain level? Kannst du das nochmal erklären?
Well, no. I can't. I can only say that we found out, as I said before, because it's in this don't have a solid ground. So where to stabilize to? to the character. If I stabilize to the character, then we make these moves with the character. And you see the horizon, for example, skipping far to the left or to the right. This is another emotional point and perspective point of view than when I stabilize on the horizon and see her walking like this. So this is a way how we in cinematic language can focus on whether this or that.
Thanks. Any very last questions? If not, that was the last screening of Styx in the realms of Panorama Special, but it will be distributed by Zorro Film and will be out in summer in Germany, nationwide hopefully. Thank you so much for staying. Thank you so much, Wolfgang Fischer, for making this film. Benedict Neuenfels for stabilizing it and shooting it and inventing stuff. Thank you so much, and Marcos